Welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen, so let's get into it. So today I found this article talking about why aren't single men in church. And I think we can use this article to kind of give ideas to places where you can find single men, because I actually believe that there's plenty of single men. I see single men all the time. And I think that a lot of women have struggled with this. So I did want to talk about it a little bit more. People do, bring it up often. So like I say, it's something that I think we have to constantly think about, dive into, and find solutions for. So there's this article. It was on preachitteachit.org, and it's basically saying, why aren't single men in church? Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing because that would be, a waste of time. But I did want to, hit a few points. So here's one. They were saying, Christian colleges are becoming covenants. I recently visited a Christian college in the Pacific Northwest whose student body is 66% female. And then they say Cameron Courtney writes, I often joke with single male friend of mine that because of his gender, he's got a buffet of dating mate choices stretched out before him. I, on the other hand, am starving in the desert. Something else that was said was, the person that wrote this was saying that when she was writing her book, I spoke to a Christian woman from France. Once a woman receives Jesus here, she is unmarriageable, the woman said. There are almost no men in the country who are following Christ, and French men will not marry a woman whose faith is in Jesus is so strong. She's like a leper in his eyes. All right. So I did want to start there because I think, again, we're getting numbers, all over the place. First of all, I think 66% is actually not bad. 1 out of 3. I mean, 1 out of 2. 1 out of 2 is not bad. So if you go into, a club or a party or something like that, and there's 100 people there and 66 of them are female and 34 are men, I'll be honest with you, when I was growing up, that's how women preferred it. Because if there's more women there, they feel like it's not going to be as much violence, or that, it's going to be a little bit more subdued. And so, again, I don't think 1 to 2 is a bad ratio in the church. The things that I have seen among singles ministries when I have been involved with them and things like that have actually been crazier numbers, close to 1 to 5, or even all the way up 1 to 12. Okay, that is the worst that I have seen, 1 to 12. So I think 66% for this particular article is not bad. But then on the other side, like I said, dealing with the whole thing in France, again, I'm just going to be honest. I just believe that people can't be locked in always to a specific location. And I've talked briefly about this in a couple of other videos. And I know for some people that's very hard because they might be very close to their family or other people or their job or situations like that. But I definitely encourage you to consider the concept of moving. All right. And, I've read articles and different things like that. And they're always saying that there's benefits to moving away. And there are also benefits to staying. But if you can find that perfect, scenario type of situation, it really might bless you, to move away. So that's all I can really say, because I'll be honest with you. If it's 1% of people in France, and then there's a lot of people that, maybe there's an anti-Christian movement over there, there's nothing else I can say. And I don't really know that much about it, so I don't want to go too deep into it, right? But one of the things that I did think was interesting, which was the main part I wanted to bring up in this particular article, was that here are the things that they're saying this is where Christian men are, according to this article. They generally go to churches with thousands of attendees on the weekend. So they go to large churches, not small churches. So if you're a church that is maybe 500 people, that makes sense. A lot of single men are not going to be in there. So they're generally going to go to churches that have like 1,800, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 on the weekend. There could be a lot of reasons for this, but I think part of it could be networking. And again, men are very logical. So if they are out there trying to talk to women, they're going to want as many women around them as possible. They're not going to want to be, just with a small group of women. Here's a big one. This is one of the things that I believe. In fact, the next 2 or 3 things are one of the things that I believe. And it's headed by a male pastor who is bold and outspoken. we live in an environment right now of cancel culture, where if somebody says something that somebody doesn't like, we're very quick to try to stop them and shame them. And through the shaming of them, we basically try to get rid of them. That's basically what's going on. And the people that do this the most are the people who feel marginalized, all right? Because they feel like they don't have power. So they try to do this through marginalization. They try to make a big deal out of it. And so over the years, a lot of men have kind of felt like a lot of women, just being honest, have tried to marginalize their opinions, trying to say that their opinions are outdated, that they, the society has moved beyond it. But what I believe, like I do think that the red pill community attests to, is that a lot of people really have not moved away from that. Okay, that is not something that the average male feels. The average man still wants a little bit more what we would call traditional. It doesn't really matter if women feel based off the people that are around them, okay, or even sometimes the news places that you watch and even your social media, because remember, your social media caters to you. Okay, so after you watch a certain amount of videos, it starts to send you more videos of the same caliber. All right, so you have to think about that. So a lot of men, they're not looking for that. And for the women that follow me, I'm just letting you know, most of the people that follow me on this channel are men. About 60% of the people that watch the videos are men, but the rest of them, are women. So that's just something for you to pay attention to. The next thing is non-denominational. Now, I don't really know why this is. I know for me, I do prefer a non-denominational church because I'm like, are we learning about Jesus or are we learning about the denomination? And at the end of the day, it's about Jesus and Jesus alone. I don't care about your one or two scriptures that you believe that you're going to base a whole ideology off of. So somebody's going to hell if they're not baptized. Okay? God comes into the heart. And I don't necessarily believe you have to be baptized in order to go to heaven. I think you have to have a heart change. And I think people can get caught up, and that's why I say about denominations, because almost every denomination has one or two things like that as a hang up. And that's why they tend to be denominations. Now, like I said, I am baptized. I believe in getting baptized, but I just don't believe that if somebody's on their deathbed and they accept Jesus and they don't have time to baptize them, that they're going to hell. The next part, contemporary worship style. The next thing is conservative ideology, like I said, that leans back more towards traditional. Risk-taking culture offers intentional male discipleship. And I think that's huge because a lot of churches shame men. And I've noticed this. I've noticed a lot of people talking about this. And it's a thing. I've watched it. Even in my church that, that I go to, I've seen the pastor do it over and over again. And he doesn't even know he's doing it. He just assumes that everything's okay. But I don't want to be, I'll be honest, I don't want to be that one guy that gets in front of him and I only have negative things to say about his preaching. So even when I have had a chance to talk to him directly, I've just honestly just kept it to myself. And I've hoped someone close to him, lets him know that you cannot say something bad about men and not say something equally bad about women. You have to keep it balanced because if you're always saying something bad about men, you're going to lose them. Okay, because nobody likes, somebody talking about them all the time. And there's lots of really great men that are not doing all these atrocities out here. Okay, so it's the concept I think a lot of people go under is this concept that one bad apple spoils the bunch, but that's not really true. If you have one bad man in the congregation, and you're going to have plenty of quote unquote wolves among the sheep. That's just how it is. And we even know that the devil comes to church. I mean, trust me, he's in church. Okay, he's sitting, somewhere in there every single Sunday because the devil going to have his people in the church because he always wants to know what's going on so he can plant seeds wherever he wants to plant them. So we have to get, out of this mindset that there's not quote unquote evil people in the church, but those evil people aren't always men. Okay. And like, even when you look at the Bible, there's a lot of evil women. Okay. Samson and Delilah, anybody? Okay. So we got to get away from this concept that, one gender is bad. That's why I always talk about on this channel that I am an equal opportunity, throw you under the bus type of person. I will say men, They need to get better in certain things, and I say women need to get better in certain things. And that's why I always talk about the non-negotiables, and it always has men and women on those non-negotiables. Anyway, let's move on. And then the worship service is under 90 minutes. It's 90 minutes or under. And again, I love that. Now, I do believe that every once in a while the Spirit can move, but I don't believe that it's moving every weekend. I just don't. And when I say the Spirit, I'm not talking about that God can't move, but it's always interesting to me that it's like that the Spirit is moving right when I'm ready to go home. But it wasn't moving earlier, and it wasn't moving in the middle of your message, but it's moving right now. When all of us ready to go home. So I do feel like, from my perspective, that does frustrate me a little bit. And so when I start to see and read some of these things, I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. I see how they could say that. And, like I say, even in my own walk, I will say that, some of those things do ring true. Now, that being said, I have gone to, like I said, different churches here in Atlanta, and I've talked about a lot of feminine pastors. I don't think a lot of women understand the difference between a gay man and a feminine man. And it's obvious when women are out here dating men that are wearing fingernail polish. Okay, it's obvious. So when you are dealing with a gay man, this is a man, like I say, he can seem straight to you, but he really wants to be with men. A man that is feminine is not a problem solver. He wants women to solve his problems for him. And then he also tends to lean into the energy of women, to what women want, to what women get excited about. So here's something else I found on Reddit. Okay, so I'll read a few things and I'll try to put it up. So hopefully you all are seeing, a little bit of this particular video. And he was basically saying out here on Reddit, if I had to guess, the single Christian men are attending more conservative churches, while single Christian women are attending more liberal churches, and they don't run into each other as a result. Marriage, though it may be a blessing, isn't for everyone, and church seems to be some kind of Sunday activity for many families. Another observation, truly as a single guy who's no longer in college, I feel out of place and not a part of the church family. I'm too old to join the college fellowship, and the families aren't interested in spending time with me. They have their own families to tend to, which I understand. I definitely don't feel like I'm a family member with the people sitting next to me in service. I remember joining a church plant on a mission field that welcomed me as part of their family. Their love was the only reason I cared to listen to the gospel message. I hope I can return again to the mission field. Someone else says, same thing. Once you're past college age in the church, it's like you're an outsider. It's like it's assumed that something is wrong with you, like you're some creep or a psychopath. And here somebody else says the similar thing, but they're saying, I feel like that as a single middle-aged man. And one of the things, again, that I've noticed is a lot of churches do not do a good job of reaching out to the men. What they like to do instead is they might have a situation where they get up and they say, hey, we have a male ministry, come on out and, be a part. And that's generally it. They might do something like that, but it's like I said, there's not an energy to move towards the men and help the men. And one of the things that I believe is that you have to recognize, like I said, that a lot of men are not these super outgoing, gonna take on everything type of men. I believe that every man is confident in something. Every man. Like, you might come up to the biggest, geekiest, nerdiest dude in the world, and you might see him, he might not make eye contact with you or anything like that. But then you'll start to talk to him about maybe his job or even maybe his favorite movie or even his favorite video game, and you'll find out he's an expert, and not just an expert, he's very confident in that. Okay, confident that he's an expert. He'll bet you his whole house, his whole salary, for a whole year that he can beat you, or beat your time in some video game, because that's what he's confident in. And people are confident in the areas that they've spent the most time in, that they've learned. All right. And so the problem is with the church, because the pastor is generally, and all the people on stage, they're generally the type of people that have to intermingle with other people. and therefore they're very confident. So they have no problem going into the congregation, talking to people, saying, hey, how you doing? Welcome to our church, blah, blah, blah. But what they're not doing is they're not recognizing that many people in their congregation don't act like them. And they're not creating an environment that is inclusive to all of these types of men that basically come out. Like one of the things that I've noticed about this particular channel, and I'm very thankful again for many of the people that follow me. I'm very thankful for you all's support. I'm very thankful because I even know sometimes y'all will come out and y'all hit a video, turn it on and hit thumbs up. And, before you even watched it. And I know y'all doing it because, sometimes the video will be 30 minutes and it just got online and I'm like watching it 15 minutes later and I got 5 thumbs up already. So I'm like, okay, they ain't watched that video yet. But I do thank you for that because that helps, the algorithm. But one of the things that I noticed was that a lot of people that follow, this particular channel, not all of you, but, some of you, that follow the channel, many of you all liked the fact that I was talking to a situation where you might not be this perfect person of society, that you might not feel as though our society is leaning itself to you and is leaning itself to the fact that you can get married and that there's nothing wrong with you. And see, to me, like I said, growing up, I always thought there was something wrong with me. I always was like, why everybody acting this way and I'm not acting this way? Why is everybody talking this way? And it wasn't. And so when I got, even when I was married, my ex would say certain things to me and I would just get so confused by what she was saying because I just didn't understand what she was talking about. Okay. But once I got out into the single world, I recognized that a lot of the men, that a lot of women would go crazy over, it wasn't so much that they were more attractive or they were more this or they were more that. It was just that they just had more experience when it came to talking to women. And that women, like even my ex-wife, she would have appreciated if I had had more of that experience. Although if I had had more of that experience, there's no really telling whether or not we would have even been together. And so those are the types of things that I learned. But I was like, okay, how can we again solve this problem? And I do think there's a part of it, like I say, where men have to practice. I'm just being real. Men have to practice. But then at the same time, I'm also like, okay, what can I do? What can I do to facilitate? But I don't want to go too far off of the tangent. So how do women and men find each other? And what are the ways in which you can find your husband or your wife? So I believe the number one way that most of you need to do, okay, is, like I said, is create events for yourself. Remember, there are events that are being done here in Atlanta. So if you are in the Atlanta area or if you're willing to drive in, we've had people to drive in. We've had people to fly in. As crazy as that sounds, but we have had people to fly in from Baltimore. We've had them from Texas, and New York. Honestly, they have flown in for events. Now, I'm not necessarily telling you to do that because a lot of times it does take time to really meet people and to get comfortable with them. So I'm just letting you know about that. But you can come out to the events here in Atlanta. You can be a part of the solution by inviting your friends to come out. Okay, and male and female friends. If you don't see enough people, be a part of the solution. All right, you can reach out to me on Instagram, or on TikTok. You see the information on the screen. So you can reach out to me. You can actually help me to figure out a good location or activity that you might be interested in if you're here in Atlanta. And if you're not in Atlanta, okay, you can do this in your area. I will work to partner with you as much as I possibly can. If you have events going on, I will shout them out, okay, on the channel. And I also just feel like, you can do a lot of things because all you really have to do is just say, hey, I'm going to have an event, at a restaurant or at a bowling alley. And if you guys are interested in coming out, come out. I'm going bowling. I'm hoping you guys will show up. Start with your, circle of friends and then invite more people. And then stay away from trying to make it single gender only. Okay. And I find, again, that women do that a little bit more often. So if you're trying to find your husband, you need to invite men. All right. And then make the men feel comfortable. You don't have to, be a pick me to them, but you need to make them feel comfortable and at least have conversation with them. Okay. When they come out. So that's another thing you can do. So that's the number one thing. And everybody can do that. And I truly believe that for many of you, that is one of the things that God is calling you to do. You have to be the solution in your environment. All right. The next thing is church hop. Is nothing wrong with church hopping. Okay. I give you permission to church hop. I church hop. I am not going to lie about it. So people in Atlanta, if you see me popping up in your church, I definitely do church hop. Okay. It's not something I do every Sunday, but I do like to do it every once in a while because I want to see where people are. All right. And I know people in my church, they might not necessarily want to date me just because I go to their church. So it just gives me just a little bit more flexibility. And I can always watch my church on TV, or I can try to go to the first service and then go to somebody else's second service. All right. Then after that, like I said, wear some paraphernalia. Okay. I do plan on making some paraphernalia, that talks about, being single and different things like that. And so you will have the opportunity to buy it, from this channel if you want. Like I said, again, I don't like, sales pitches and stuff like that, but that will help to support the channel. But it's also something I think will help you because, see, a lot of women don't really understand that a t-shirt goes a long way. The right t-shirt goes a long way for a woman. I don't necessarily know how well it works for men. The women can actually put in the comments whether or not they think a good t-shirt will work for men. But like one of the things that I've always encouraged women to do is to get you some sports t-shirts. All right. We're coming to the end of football season. So it's a really great time, to get some football paraphernalia. And if you really want to get a lot of attention, you'll get paraphernalia that is opposite to the team of your area. Unless, you just happen to, to be like that. For instance, here in Atlanta, we have the Atlanta Falcons, right? So if you get New Orleans Saints, who is, our 100% rival, then you're going to get a lot of attention everywhere you go. Just simply because you're a New Orleans Saints fan in the Atlanta Falcons fandom, right? But if you happen to be a Cowboys fan, that will also get you a lot of attention because there are a lot of Cowboys fans here in Atlanta. And so like what happens for a lot of men is when they see that, if they are a football fan, okay, they will make a comment because there's something they see that gives them an opening. Another thing that it can be is, like I say, something anime or something cartoon or something that you think that men might be attracted to. It doesn't have to be vulgar or anything like that. It can be cute, right? And women, many of you know how to style these t-shirts. So I'm letting you know, you get them, you style them. Okay, if you don't know how to do that, go to Pinterest or something like that, because you still want to look cute in the shirt, right? Okay, now there's lots of different shirts you can get. I knew somebody that got a bedazzled shirt. That it was a woman's shirt, so it was fitted and it was bedazzled. And I think her team, I forgot where her team was, because it wasn't the Ravens. I think it was something out west, but I forgot exactly what it was. But it was like all shiny and jeweled and stuff like that. But it was for her team, but it fit her body. It wasn't loose, okay? So it fit her body a little bit. And so she basically wore that, and that, again, would get her attention. So you have to think like that. See, back in the day, a lot of book readers that follow me might know that there's a lot of book readers that don't like the e-reader. And the reason why I believe that a lot of them don't like the e-reader is because they do enjoy that when they have that book up, you can see what they're reading. And so other people will come over and actually have a conversation with them based off of what they were reading. It gives people an opening for a conversation. But the e-reader never did that. It's just plain on the back. And so you don't know if the person's playing a video game or what they're doing on social media when they're just basically have an e-reader. You want to give people opportunities. And so even if you have something that talks about your church or, that says, I love Jesus or whatever it is, again, you're giving someone an opportunity. And for a lot of women, that is, something that really works really well because now you're giving the man some kind of way to identify you. So now if you're walking, like here in Atlanta, we have the belt line. So if you're walking and you're showing off something Christian, okay, now if a man comes up to you, He sees the Christian shirt, that gives him an opening. If he opens up talking about Jesus or God or Christ or whatever, then you know, okay, he's probably at least decently Christian. You know, maybe it's not perfect, because generally if he's not Christian, he's going to, open it with, how Christian are you? And it's going to be something like that, so you know you can avoid him. All right? So these are things that I'm hoping that, you can see. For the men, I would definitely say church hop. Church hop, church hop, church hop. That's probably the best way for the men to find Christian women. And like one of the things that I would do, and I'll be real, I've done it myself, is that every church I go to, I try to look at how many women are there, and then I honestly see how they react to me. So if I'm in that environment, how many women are checking me out? How many of them do I look and I'm like, oh, she might have been checking me out over there? How friendly are they when they talk to me? If I'm leaving out and I'm walking through the parking lot, who says hello to me? If I say hello to a group of people or say something like, hey, how did y'all enjoy church? Who responds? How much do they respond? How do they linger? Because there's generally an energy in every area. And so what I'm looking for is the areas where the women want men to talk to. And generally speaking, if you say certain things and the women just walk off and they got a million things to do and they're rushing to get to their car, I don't feel like being involved with that. I've encouraged women on this channel over and over and over again, don't do that. Linger around after church. The man literally cannot talk to you, while, the pastor is talking. So for me, if I'm dealing with women and they're just running off, okay, I'm like, okay, that might not be a church that I want to come back to. So I try to hit up every church at least 2 or 3 times to get a good understanding. I'm also looking, okay, at the age groups, do I feel most of the women are in the age group that I'm looking for? Because each one of them gives you a different feeling. All right. So that's just one of the things that I would encourage you to do. Here in Atlanta, I'm always looking for a new church to go to. And I probably last year maybe went to about 4 or 5. So again, those are just the types of things as a guy, I would definitely encourage you to do. That's probably your best bet. Okay, because you're finding women that go to church, and you can generally tell by the time you take her out one time or have a good conversation with her how much she really is lining up with the ideology of church. How much is she in love with her pastor, which is a whole nother conversation. Are women in love with their pastor? But anyway, that's going to be it on it. Remember, on Thursdays, okay, every other Thursday, I should say, we do Zoom Lives, which we call Thursday Talk. So please come out to that. That's a really great way to talk to other Christians that are single, see what they're going through. We do that at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that's way on the West Coast. I think that's 4 p.m. So you might be able to get us on your way home. And until then, please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.